Hello and welcome everybody to episode 4 of the 167 podcast.
Come on, how good is it to be at episode 4?
It's feeling really good. We've gotten here really quickly.
We actually have. What's that? I mean, there's that saying, we started, but we're here.
Started from the bottom.
We started from the bottom, and now we're here at episode 4.
So we're not, I wouldn't say we're at the top yet.
No, but the 7 subscribers, it's grown.
We've got 7.
Yeah, more. Well, the actual numbers are higher, but who's counting?
We're going to be humble about it.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to be humble about it, but we are so excited.
Not when we hit 1 million.
No. Then we're going to be then we're going to get those YouTube, that plaque, and we're going to
That's totally the button. Oh.
Yeah, then we're going to hang it somewhere.
Well, and to the Apple Podcast guys and the Spotify gentlemen
Shout
and
them all out.
the ladies and the Anchor
Come
team.
on, somebody. Everybody, and that's just a shout out to everybody on whatever platform you're watching on. If you are a visual watcher and you're joining us on YouTube, how are you doing? Hope you're doing very well. So good to have you here watching us. And if you are a podcast listener on all the amazing platforms that Swen has just mentioned, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, all of those guys.
That's
We're so
right,
glad that you could tune in and listening in your car, at the gym, at home. This is only as good as our listeners and the engagement.
Yeah, we appreciate our audience. Great for you to be here. We want to add value to you.
Big time.
Hey, so the 167 podcast, what we want to do is we know that there are 168 hours in the week.
Yeah.
We hope that one of them is at least spent in a church service at some place, at some point.
Yeah.
And we want to add value and speak into the other 167 hours of your week. So we want to add value to different areas of your life outside of just a Sunday, because we know that we don't just grow on one day of a week. There's a continual diet of self-improvement, of growth. And so we want to help you to follow Jesus. We want to help you to live a healthy life, healthy relationships that's God-honoring. And we want to grow together in our community. Yeah. And so if you want to follow some of the posts, even for our community, that is at the 167 podcast on Instagram.
Come on.
We're only on the gram.
The gram right now.
The gram. We're only on the gram.
It's
the gramophone.
We will maybe expand one day.
Exchange-a-gram.
Yeah, the exchange.
On the line.
We're patenting that idea in case it's really good. No one else can take that. If it's rubbish, then it's fine. But so good to have you all here. And please don't forget to subscribe, to rate us, to do all those good things. Leave comments, leave questions. We love the engagement.
We want to get better.
And it also helps us to grow and expand. And for more people to see and to be a part of what we're doing here. And we're very excited about this episode in particular. This came to mind when we were planning and thinking about the 167 podcast as something that we have to talk about.
That's right.
Especially, listen, you could be listening to this at any point of the year, but where we're at now, we're coming towards the end of a year. And what you associate with normally at the end of the year is tiredness. It's burnout, it's exhaustion, and it's this inability to replenish oneself. So today, we're going to be speaking about exactly those things. We're going to be speaking about burnout. We're going to be speaking about how and why it happens, how we can get better at managing it, and really what are some tools, practical tools that in the 167 other hours of our week we can use to combat and fight burnout. And we both feel super strongly about this because I think we both have had seasons of burnout.
Yeah.
And seasons of just being really tired, really exhausted and lacking motivation to do what we're called to do, doing what we're paid to do, and even your family life gets affected.
Absolutely. I think the worst thing about burnout is not almost the physical, because I don't always think it starts physically, because you can still have great margin in your life.
Yeah.
And be tired physically, because your work should make you tired. If you're not tired after working, you're not working hard enough.
Yeah.
So, but I think the danger comes is where we neglect the emotional and psychological aspects of burnout that then begin to manifest in a physical way in your body, but also does damage to relationships. It does damage to your soul. And I mean, we've seen people who have hit burnout, where you hit the wall. I've probably been very close. I'm a bit of a workaholic, to be honest, and so it's so easy to get to that point. And so what's helped me over the last 4 years has actually just been a consistency of a rest day. And I'm sure we're going to get into that. But if you neglect the maintenance of your life, you're going to get a breakdown. If you don't take your car to the mechanic and have a service and change the oil and change the tires on a regular, you're going to hit breakout. You're going to hit breakdown. And I think we're no different. And I would say that burnout comes from a lack of trusting God, because you think it's all on you and you got to go. If you don't go to work every day, if you don't work 18 hours a day, if you don't.
Yeah, well, you know, that's so good. And I think we wear busyness like a badge we can be extremely proud of. So you can brag. I mean, you brag about all the hours that you work in a day. And listen, we're not saying that hard work is a bad thing. I think we encourage hard work.
Big time.
I think we're for hard work. I think it's when you start replacing that with things that are necessary and vital in your life. And I think one thing that we can maybe start with and both agree on is that the speed of life today is extremely, extremely fast. And you have to create intentional moments of your day where you're resting, intentional moments of your day where you're pulling away, intentional moments of your day where you are able to stop what you're doing, even when it feels like you're super busy, even when it feels like you've got so much to do, because the speed of life is there. And I think one of the big things that contributing to that is this whole kind of, I want to call it a spirit, but it's comparison. Because we're looking around at the other dude who's 25, the other guy who's 38, the other guy's 45, where he's at with his business. And obviously what we see on social media is always a highlight reel. We're never seeing the main story. We compare, and in that way we think, well, we've also got to be there in that space. And then you put your mind, your heart, and your soul, and then your body on a pace and on a track that will never, ever, ever be sustainable.
That's good.
You can hold it for like a few years, maybe.
Yeah.
You could even be successful.
Yeah. No, you might just be successful.
You might just be. You can hold that and you can maintain it for a while, but at some point, like you're saying, the wheels come off, and then it's not just you, because you spoke about an emotional response. It's not just you that end up being hurt by the process. The people around you.
Yeah, big time.
Because when you're tired, your emotional relationships and the people around you, they suffer just as much as well.
Big time. And even just on a spiritual level, when is it the time you feel most tempted? Is when you're tired.
Oh,
when is the time? Yeah, when is the time that you do the stupid things in your life? Is when you're on burnout, when you're emotionally depleted, when you don't have the energy to fight temptation, when you don't have the energy to forgive your wife or your husband, and you just brush it under the rug because it's just too much trouble to go into it. Financial burnout happens the same way. You just tuck it underneath and think it's never going to come back. And like these things don't just go away. We have to learn to deal with them. And it's such a real thing. And the busyness and the pace of life, it is what it is because, I mean, flip, man, you can run your business off your phone.
You can. Where do you stop?
It's next to you. You go to bed next to you.
Yeah.
I remember Simon Sinek did a conversation about millennials, and he's like, every time your phone beeps, it's a dopamine hit. And in fact, sometimes you feel like it buzzes, and then you check it, but it doesn't. There was no message. It's just your brain triggering you to have a look. And
I get that.
It's so true.
I get that.
I'm like, oh flip, oh no, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
And you feel the vibration.
Yeah, you do.
But it's just our brains, and we're just so hot-wired to our phones. But it's just not healthy. And on the other side, what we do is we then, because we're so run down, what do we want to do? The day we've got day off, we just want to switch off completely. We want to go and play. Play is important.
Yeah.
I think we've lost the art of play. Yeah. Play has always, I think, replenished us, replenished people. But what we do is we go to the other extreme where we escape completely. And we just kind of live in this weird world of overly busy, but then we want to do our hobby and we don't want anyone to tell us differently. And it's like, I think it's just a breeding ground for dysfunctional relationships.
Yeah.
People that get divorced, let's not go there, but I think a lot of relational problems come from just the fact of being overcooked, overworked, burnt out, emotionally thin, all of those things, they just come out of those bad places.
Yeah, I think there's so much that we can talk about here, and we've watched some great content and videos about this across the years. And one amazing sermon that we watched was one by a guy called Wayne Cordero, a pastor in Hawaii. Not a bad place to pastor. Let's just put that out there right now.
Come on.
Not a bad place to get a calling from God.
I really feel like maybe we need a view church in one of the islands. You know what I mean?
That Pacific. We go Fiji area.
Why not every island?
Yeah. No, I receive.
And then Phil, you can be the oversight over all those islands and have to travel from island to island.
That's prophetic. I just received that. I received that. If anybody that's listening or watching right now, come on, we just pray into
Amen.
that.
Receive
But
it.
He had such good content. He called this message that he preached he's called it Dead Leader Running.
Yes.
I think it's
It's iconic in a way.
It's brilliant, and it's up and it's available. So if you do want to watch it, you can watch that. And one of the great analogies and pictures that he's got that I think will kind of form maybe a bit of a foundation for what we speak about. But there's so much to talk about. As he speaks about a bucket, and he kind of takes you. And he says your life is like this bucket, and you've got two taps. You've got a tap that flows in, and you've got a tap that flows out.
Yeah.
And for most people, the tap that flows out is pretty much always on because there's always something to give to. If you're a younger person, you're studying maybe, if you're in high school, you give to that. You're going to give socially to the friends around you. As you get older, maybe it becomes about a job, it becomes about family.
Yeah.
It maybe becomes about responsibilities, even church responsibilities.
Yeah.
Your output is flowing, that tap is open.
Yeah.
He said what a lot of people struggle with is that they don't really understand how to get the other tap flowing at just the same pace.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've got the output tap is flowing. You just picture a tap that's just wide open. And then you've almost got this like slow drip of an input tap coming into your bucket. And for me, one of the big takeaways I took from that message was that I actually am not very aware on the things that I find very, how can I put it like this way? They fill my bucket. They fill my tank. I love what you said there because you go on your off day, for example, and you escape, but you don't fill.
Yeah.
You switch off. Maybe you sleep, or maybe you switch the lights off when you watch movies, or
binge watch,
or you binge watch or whatever. And sometimes those things can be good to an extent, and they can be nice. But the question we've got to ask is is it something that fills my tank?
You rest, but you don't replenish.
You don't replenish. And I think that is so important when it comes to burnout, because I think if we're unable to do that, because I think life requires people to have an outflow tap that's open.
Big time,
you can't be someone who isn't flowing outwards.
You can't touch other people's lives.
I think it's unbiblical if you didn't have that. So we're all for the strong flowing output tap, we are. But I think we're also very much for the strong flowing input tap.
Yeah.
And it requires conversation and requires thought, personal reflection. It's like, well, what actually fills my tank?
Yeah.
The first question is like, well, what do I enjoy doing? What are hobbies that I find? Do I like hiking? Do I like, is it spending time with my friends? If it could possibly, I know you enjoy movies, so it could be watching a movie that really just provides space where you can laugh or think or enjoy something. Maybe it's series, maybe it's sports, all of these things, and you begin to understand that, hey, I need to match my inflow with my outflow. Maybe you can explain how you have managed that, because I think both, we're very much on a journey on figuring this out, but you come from someone who enjoys working, so you naturally will work hard, outflow will be going hard. Have you always been able to match that with inflow? Or is it something that you've had to learn and develop?
I think I've had to learn where I need to guard my time.
Yeah.
So and for other people, it could also be the same thing of where, hey, you're married maybe, and you and your spouse replenish very differently.
Yeah.
And that can be a real thing. And so it's not maybe replenishing for you, but you know they've also got to replenish. And so there's got to be. You've got to be able to replenish by yourself, and you've got to find activities that fuel the both of you.
Yeah, that's
just speaking into a marriage context and a family.
That,
and I think we ought to also realize is that in this season, the outflow is much greater than other seasons.
Wow, okay.
Because you think about it, during COVID season, when at the time of this recording, 2020, it's not just your effort, but it's the things that drain you. So worry drains you.
Big time.
Worry is a big outflow. So some outflow is healthy, where it's productive. Other things are unhealthy. They're not really from God. And there's a biblical way to approach this so that they don't become such an outflow. But think about it. You're worried about getting sick.
Yeah.
You're worried about getting close to people. Yeah. You're worried about how this is going to impact on your finances. You're worried on how it's going to impact on your relationships. When are you going to be able to travel again? And I think even just the access to news is another massive withdrawal from all of our tanks, because not only, you used to just maybe read the paper and get international news, or now,
bro, we're getting live death counts. From any nation in the world.
Absolutely,
you have access to that.
You have access to that, but you also have access to the political problems in other countries, our own country. What's true? What's the lie?
Wow.
And we're just being bombarded so many times throughout the day, and even news radio. And so, I'm saying that this is a season where there's so that's why you're getting people at this time of the year now, this is filmed in November, that are going, I just got to pull back. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
But that's not the right response,
Yes,
but that's the reaction.
Yeah.
That's the reaction to what's happening.
Yeah.
So what I've had to do the best of is that I've had to intentionally do things that fuel me.
Good.
And I've had to learn how to do those things. So for me, protecting my day off has been so important to me. Now, there's always going to be a time and a place and a season where you're going to have to compromise on that.
Yes.
But as a large, that's protected.
Good, yeah.
We've also had to protect a day in a week where it's just Lara and myself and Samuel, and not always having people around because, for instance, Lara's quite introverted, and that's great. Like, that's brilliant. And I've learned a bit more of those things as well. So we've had to protect that for our family.
That's very good.
And then for me, I love watching movies. But if I watch a movie at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's not replenishing. That's just resting.
Okay.
And then it actually wrecks the rest of my day.
Okay.
But if I read my Bible and pray, that refuels me
You also enjoy
spiritually.
walking.
Yeah, I
walking as well.
walk and pray and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I'm bigger internally, I have greater margin in my life. I actually think one of the best things that your devotional life can do for you is to give you an internal margin where you're actually getting things like peace.
Yeah.
You're getting things like confidence in God. Your faith is being built up, and you're saying, "Oh, it's not about me. It's not this. All that's going on, I can give it over to the Lord."
Yeah.
And that takes the weight off our shoulders, off my shoulders anyway.
Yeah.
And I play football, and so that's been great. I've been enjoying that as a great outlet. When I was training in gym, that was a great outlet.
Yeah.
Going for a hike was a great outlet.
Yeah.
But those things I haven't been so consistent in. But my devotional life in this season has been so important.
That's awesome.
Protecting a day off where it's just to worship and it's just to spend time with people that are closest to me.
That's great.
It's been that. And even playing football with my son is actually, I don't rest.
Yeah.
I stop playing football and I'm smashed.
Yeah.
But it's so good for our relationship because we're connecting in it. Boys like to do things together. They don't want to sit and talk. They want to do things together.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's been replenishing for me.
So I think that's it. You don't feel maybe extremely rested after that, but there's a replenishment that's coming in there. And what you said, and I'll share also briefly what I like to do, but what you said there is that when you get tired this time of the year, like we said, we filmed this in November, people pull away. I find that sometimes people pull away from the wrong things.
They do, absolutely.
And then they start pulling away from the things that are actually replenishment and that are actually giving them life, not taking it away.
That is so
good. And then
good.
we pull away and then we add to what we think is helping us rest, or what we think is our escapism, and we're gonna pull away so that we can escape more. But I think it just drains your tank even more.
Absolutely.
Because maybe you're not outflowing in that day, but you're definitely not inflowing.
Yeah.
And outflowing, what we're saying is that it's biblical to a large extent. There's a lot of good things that come out when we are able to give out, especially from a church context. But how many times have we had people that are just like, I'm tired in this season, I'm not going to serve.
Yeah.
And we're like, we understand you're tired.
Yeah.
Like, if you're listening to this, everybody goes through burnout.
But that's exactly it. Everybody is tired now.
Exactly. Everybody's tired. So it's not like okay, well, if everybody's tired, then we all stop serving, or we all stop doing some of the things that God is calling us to. It's like, no, we have got to be intentional with the other areas of our life and saying, well, what is resting us, what is replenishing us, and what is then something that we are outflowing in. And for me personally, like I would say what I would do a lot on those off days would also just be a whole lot of nothing. It's like, we get Mondays off because we work on Sundays, is that you would just kind of stay at home and it feels good. It feels good to just stay at home and do nothing and maybe watch sport, play PlayStation, whatever the deal is. But I found that at the end of those days, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday morning, I was even more exhausted when I got to work because I actually didn't even feel rested. I wasn't replenishing, but I actually didn't even feel very rested in those days either. And then when I got married, my Monday started to change, whereas that I would start doing things with my wife. I would try to be intentional with starting to do things with friends, trying to get out more. Because for my personality, I'm a bit weird. I'm like an extroverted introvert, whereas when I'm with people, I get replenished, but I can't do it all the time.
Yes, yeah.
Because then it starts becoming draining in a way as well. So Mondays, I've got to kind of find a balance in that. Some Mondays, I need to be with people. need to be with friends, having a good time, having a laugh, playing football, like you say. And then some Mondays it's good for me to be with my wife or for me to spend some time by myself. And then the big one for me, and I'll be open and honest, Mondays, it was always a hard day for me to be spiritual, because Sundays I felt like I was just let's say you're preaching the Sunday, or you preach the Sunday night, or whatever that looked like. It feels like you're spiritually just going for it. And then Monday you're like, I need a break from that now. But that's almost like what our podcast is all about.
Yeah.
Like, there's the 167. It's like if you just leave it in that hour, or those few hours that you're busy in church, you're missing out on the full picture, because that's not what we do, it's who we are.
Yeah.
So if we're able to, like you're saying, tuck into your devotional life, pray and worship even on your off day, you take a huge step in beating burnout, because now you're focusing on replenishing, and you're focusing on something that you're like, well, actually I need a rest from that. It's like, no, that's exactly what you need in this time.
Big time.
So for me, those have been huge, and just finding ways, and you've got to try stuff.
Yeah, you do.
It's like finding hobbies. I don't know if you've got hobbies that you like to do, but finding hobbies for me have been so difficult, because it's hard to just try stuff. But this is why we're having this conversation. It's like, well, are you aware of some of the things that fill your tank? Because sometimes you just got to go out and try stuff.
You do
different things.
You do. No, I think it's exactly right. And for us, because we work on a Sunday, it's not, people might look at what we do and go, what are you just talking to people? That's like my dream job. That's fine, but sometimes the conversations we're having aren't just like, oh man, everything's going. Some people are dropping stuff, some serious heaviness.
Indeed.
And you have to process that.
Yeah.
They got it off their shoulders, but now you got to process it.
You got to carry it now.
And you're always giving. And then whenever you preach, it's actually like you're giving birth to something.
Yeah.
Multiple times in a day.
Yeah.
And it takes so much. And I think that's even where you were going. That you need to replenish in different areas. You need to replenish your flesh. So yes, do things that replenish your flesh.
Yeah.
But you can't stop doing the things that replenish your spirit, man, on the inside of you.
Yeah, big time.
Because if you're spiritually weak yet physically strong, you're still a target for the enemy, an easy target.
Yeah.
In a sense, I would rather be spiritually strong than physically strong. But if you can be strong in both, and in your mind and your thinking, your emotions,
you're in a very good space.
That's the best. But you make all of your best decisions in that moment.
Yeah.
And so we've got to be aggressive with that. And it's not about, okay, let me try squeeze something in you. You can't squeeze in replenishment.
No.
You actually have to calendar it in and say no to other things.
Big time.
And I think maybe, because obviously this is a 2-part podcast.
It's a 2-part.
So today we're just kind of mentioning and introducing and talking about, and we'll get practical again in the next episode. But even just the idea of, you actually have to say no to something. The best answer you can have for yourself is no.
Yeah.
Because we say yes to so many things, but we don't have maybe the intention to be there, or we just don't want to disappoint somebody, but we're going to disappoint them later anyway.
We're professional people pleasers.
Oh, big time. So, look, I think it's a very good conversation to have, and I think even anxiety would drop.
Yeah.
If we had more margin. I think anxiety is often a result of burnout, or getting close to burnout. And that's even a conversation I think we need to have at some point about anxiety and depression and that kind of stuff. But
even on saying no, I think that the biggest revelation that we can have is that when we've set a goal for our life, or we understand that this is the type of, we talk about the word margin. This is the type of margin I want to have for my energy levels, for my flesh, like my body, and then spiritually. This is the type of margin I want to have. That would often require you to say no to good things as well.
Absolutely.
So we hear like it's a great opportunity, or it's you can serve in this area, or you can help this people, or whatever the deal is. It's easy to say no to bad things.
Yeah.
But sometimes even good things don't build into what you're trying
to have. That's good.
For
Very
your
good.
Family. So for everybody, there is a call to be involved in the body of Christ. There's a call to honor your marriage if you're married, or the season that you're in. And it's so important that with burnout that we understand, I think this is what God is calling me to do in this season.
That's great.
So even that when good opportunities come along, we're able to say, I don't think it's my season for that. Because I can involve myself in that, involve myself there, and involve myself there. And then I'm unable to do what I'm actually called to do, what I'm actually supposed to do well, because I'm so tired because I'm doing a bunch of different things.
So good.
For me, this has been like a total journey, because I'm like, my friends call me like a yes man, because people will come.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's funny. Anything with Jim Carrey in it, let's just be real, is a brilliant movie. Can I say that? I can.
Well, mostly.
Yeah, mostly. Let's say mostly. It's covering my sin there. So for me, I get called a yes man often, because I love people and I love plans, so that when people with good plans are inviting me to something, my knee-jerk reaction is to say, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there, and we're going to have so much fun, and we're going to be the life of the party, and it's going to be the best night ever. And then the night comes, and I haven't taken into consideration what my week has looked like, what I had done the previous night, what I had done that morning. And then I end up being in positions where I am bailing on plans, or unable to attend, or have pre-booked, or I've got something else in the way, where you end up just actually messaging that person, and then you have to say, I can't make it anymore. I can't be there.
And that's horrible.
And then good intentions actually start hurting people. So my intentions were never bad.
Yeah.
I never wanted to hurt anybody or be the guy that doesn't show up to plans. But I was just saying yes to everything because it sounded good, but it wasn't actually what was going to work. And there are people, I think there's times for both of us and for anybody watching, I think there are people that we are called to spend time with and invest in. If you try to do it with everybody all the time, you're going to disappoint.
You are. And what I'm picking up on what you're saying, you're talking about calling, but I think that's just, it's coming down to the principle, we've discussed it before, about having a vision for your life.
Big time. Yeah.
Where vision is, the Bible says, my people perish for a lack of vision or lack of revelation. The point is, vision is supposed to be constraining.
Yeah.
So that you know what to say yes to and what to say no to. But most people don't have their vision written down, so they don't know what to say yes to or what to say no to. Everything looks good, so let's go for it.
Yeah.
And that can lead to burnout, wanting to do everything, please everybody.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a powerful point there.
Yeah.
But I think you also got a cool article for us to have a look through and chat through. And
I saw some really good things in this article. Even before we jump into that, I think one of the points actually in the article is talking about community, and how community plays such a big role actually in burnout, in that the people that you surround yourself with, I think we speak about this in many different contexts, but the people that you surround yourself with often will determine and dictate what your future is going to look like, because you become like the people you're with. You start to speak like them, you start to act like them. And I think in times when you're tired, you need to surround yourself with people that are life-giving and positive. So one of these amazing points here is speaking about community. Who do you work with? Who are you around? How supportive and how trustworthy are you with those relationships? Because if we are constantly putting ourselves in with people that are, tired is fine, but that are negative, that are not speaking life over situations, that are actually just speaking death over their work, over their life, over whatever's happening in their situation. How easy is it for negativity to just be contagious, to jump over, and that makes you tired. No one leaves a negative conversation feeling like, I've got so much life, I just want to tackle the situations and the obstacles in my life. We need to be so intentional. That's what I love about life group. So life group comes sometimes on a Thursday night for some people. That conventionally, you're starting to get tired. Let's say Thursday night, you're starting to get pretty tired. The week has come, it's happened. So sometimes we'll go to life group tired. So, and I can't tell you how many times we have left life group tired. It just doesn't happen.
No.
Because you're with people, and it's life-giving, and guys are happy to be there. And I'm sure everybody got there maybe a bit tired. But because of the way that the atmosphere and the dynamic between those group of people work, you leave replenished.
Yeah.
You leave refreshed. You leave feeling so good. And for me, it's just the best example of if you have the right people around you. And you can't pick your colleagues. You can't pick the people that you work with. So for everybody that's watching you and you're saying, well, you don't know the staff. You don't know my workplace. You don't know the guys I spend every day the most negative. Totally. But you can often, we talk about influence. You can often start to change and affect the dynamics of the relationships that you're working with by doing small things. If it's encouraging people more, if it's changing the narrative of the way conversations flow, sending positive, encouraging emails out, I find that if the community has got a sense of life-givingness, positivity, I think the burnout is far from that situation.
Yeah. I think as Christians even, we, just assuming that people listening to this are Christians, if you're not, this is still a great principle, that Christians are even called to live an opposite lifestyle.
Yeah.
What does burnout do? Burnout causes you to go into isolation because you want to hide.
Yeah.
And the effect of burnout, it can take you a long time to get into burnout, but burnout lasts way longer than you. It could be 2-year process of getting out of burnout for some people. So it wants to get you into isolation. And so even though I don't feel like community, community is actually a healthy principle to live by that's going to build health into my life. And so I'm the pastor and you're a pastor. These are days I don't want to go to group.
Big time.
I love my group, and for those hearing, I'm so sorry. Sometimes I don't want to go to group, and it's been like that for years.
Yeah, same.
Like the last thing I need to do is this. But you know what? We've made a decision that we're going to live a healthy lifestyle. We're going to live a God-honoring lifestyle, and community is important. It's one of the indicators. It's one of the safeguards.
Yeah.
Because you've got people there who can actually pray for you and encourage you as well. And so when I leave life group, I'm like, best night ever.
And you're like, why was I ever
Exactly.
hesitant?
Yeah, it just turns that around.
Yeah.
And my wife is the same. Even though Lara is an introvert, she just feels how you just get picked up, just get lifted up.
Yeah.
And like being around negative people, if you're a negative person, you need to live in the opposite spirit and begin to speak life and not negativity.
Yeah.
Negativity spreads like a wildfire and it just causes damage. I find negative people incredibly draining.
Yeah.
I want to get away from negative people. In fact, in some relationships I have.
Yeah.
I remember this one guy, Chris Hodges, talking about one of the culture points of the church is to choose joy. And he used Tigger as an example.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody wants to be around Tigger because Tigger is so much fun. He's a ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
And I think if we can be a ray of sunshine, we're going to attract people into our life. We're going to attract opportunities into our life.
Yeah.
But also just on the inside of us, we're going to be healthy. I'm not talking about being the comedian.
Yes, or insincere.
Or insincere, yeah. I'm just talking like, hey, instead of choosing a negative conversation, turn it to a positive one.
Yeah.
Say, you know what, we're not where we want to be, but isn't it amazing that one day we could be somewhere else?
Yeah.
I mean, that could change the atmosphere of a room, change the atmosphere of a spirit even.
I think that's a great way. I love that. It's like, well, we're not where we want to be yet, but we could be there. It's like a mindset.
Big time.
And I think one of the things that also lead to burnout is expectation. It's managing expectation. It's
wow, yeah.
I thought I was going to be here, and now I'm not there. You can burn out when you spiral at that point. How do we not spiral? How are we able to see, and this is another vision thing, but how are we able to see kind of further than where we are right now? Like Stephen Furtick, he's got a great example where you thank God that, yes, you might not be where you want to be, but you thank him that you're not where you used to be.
Yeah, very good.
Then you look at your life and you're saying, well, I'm not there yet. I haven't got the promotion that I wanted, or I haven't seen this in church, or I haven't seen this with my family, but we've come a long way. We've come far. It's almost like a bird's eye view.
That's good.
On your life. And I think burnout becomes so easy to fall into when you develop almost that tunnel vision where you're just kind of seeing what's in front of you and you don't open the blinkers as to what God could be doing in other areas and appreciating and being grateful. And I think it's that living with a grateful spirit. It's if I can be grateful, this is the thing that I would love to move forward in right now. And that might be the thing that Satan could use to get you to burnout. But if you're able to say, but I'm so grateful that we're healthy. I'm so grateful that my kids are happy. I'm so grateful for this. You can beat it, you can get past it, and God can say, well, we can move there. You can focus on that. You can focus on the positive things, and then those other areas will move forward. But it's like it's tough because we want to do well, and we want to succeed. So expectations are a big thing for us.
I think catching your heart, where your heart is at, is so important. Andy Stanley wrote a book a few years ago called, I think, the Enemies of the Heart. Where there's certain attitudes like anger and greed and these kinds of things that impact your heart and how to counteract them. But I think knowing where our heart is at is so important, because when your speech starts, I find that people who are closest to burnout or have burnt out or more cynical, more negative, don't see the joy in things,
Yeah.
and they want to escape.
Yes.
Those for me are telltale signs. And so I've had to recognize in my own life, hey, when is my
Yeah, me
speech
too.
getting this way? When am my outlook getting this way?
too.
Or when am I, as a part, you love people, but then you,
It'd be a lot easier if they weren't there.
it's terrible. But that's when you know, whoa, okay, something's happening in my
In me.
world that I need to change.
Yeah.
I need to take a break now. And I did that a couple of weeks ago
Yeah.
for myself. Just took a break, just needed to stop.
Yeah.
But I think even on that point of managing expectation, I think for me it seems like, and I've gotten this wrong so many times, but is that when there's unmet expectation, there's disappointment.
Yes.
And there's only so much disappointment we can take before we stop on that tap, that outlet tap that you're
Yes.
talking again.
Yeah.
And disappointment does that, and I think it builds frustration. I thought. And I think out of that frustration, you can almost develop a bitterness and an anger. And these are unhealthy attitudes. And what does the proverb say? Guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life.
yeah.
All the issues of life come out of your heart. So Jesus even said that out of the overflow of your heart, your mouth speaks. And so whatever's in our life in that time is a reflection of what's going on in our heart. And I think unmet expectations create a long-term effect.
They do.
Where, even as maybe in our context, asking people to serve in an area, but we weren't clear about what is this actually going to entail.
Yeah, what we want it to
And then,
look like.
and then it's like, oh, but I thought this, but we've actually, it is part of it, but there's more, or there's less.
Yeah.
And that can create that unmet expectation. And I think if you feel like you're in a place of unmet expectations, the best thing you can do is to communicate.
Communicate, yeah.
Just say, hey, I thought that this is what it looked like. Because I talk to people, but I think about it, I think they know what I'm thinking.
Yes.
It's not that people want to mislead you. I think it's just that people aren't that clear.
No.
And so we actually have to ask more questions.
Especially uncomfortable conversations.
Especially because you want to win people over, or you want to get that contract signed, or you want to win the deal, or you want to, and you win the deal, but you didn't quite promise the truth on the delivery. And all of those things can happen even in the workplace, where you were going to get a promotion, but you've been getting this promotion for 6 months and you still haven't gotten the promotion. And then you just start getting like upset.
Yeah.
And I think it's just about coming back and communicating and saying, listen, I might get this wrong, but this is what I think. And there's an opportunity to go, okay, I didn't see that. Or the other person goes, flip, I didn't realize I said that.
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity. So I think those are one of the areas that
I
may
love
be
that.
helpful as you brought it up.
Yeah, no, I think something we can also get better at is to stop making big decisions when we're tired, and stop making like life-altering, life-changing calls for the family, for yourself when you're burnt out. I think it's great to acknowledge that when I'm tired and when I'm exhausted.
Can we stop, play that back, listen to it again, and then play it back again?
Because I think what that does is I think it keeps you there for so much longer, because then you make really bad choices. Because like I love what you said. You're like, what are the telltale signs? You're angry, your temper's short, your speech is different, the way you're thinking is different because your priorities have changed, you've got unmet expectations, and then you make calls and choices based on that. Instead of being, I feel healthy.
And that's the spiral.
That's the spiral. So it's like, I feel healthy, I feel spiritually well. We're never going to feel perfect. So if we're going to wait for the perfect moment to make big choices, that'll also be, then you'll never make any choices. But it's about, let's be aware of where we're at. Because again, we're going to say it like over and over again. We don't think it's a bad, everybody gets burnt out. Everybody gets tired. So if you're listening to this now and you're saying, I'm in that right now, we're not dissing that. We think that it's just good to be a part of a conversation. Real. But to acknowledge like, this is where I'm at right now. I feel tired. 2020 in our context right now has been a crazy year. Well, stop making huge choices like right now. Stop making huge decisions for your family. Like if you're going to immigrate, I don't think right now is the best call to make that, or the best time to make that. Or if you're going to change your job, or if you're going to move this, or if you're going to break off that relationship, or if you're at your final straw, rather wait. Rather wait and let God do something in your heart. Like we've been saying, try to find things that fill your tank. Try to go on those hikes. If it needs to be by yourself, go by yourself.
That's good.
Find the hobbies. Find the things that are gonna start to replenish. And like you said, this are two-parters. So we're gonna speak about some practical things in the next one. So jump in and join that. But to know that, like, to make decisions in that space is only gonna end badly.
Big time. I think there's so much wisdom in that. I heard this saying that the unevaluated life is not worth living.
Yeah, exactly.
And we are, because we spoke about the busyness of life, we've got every night there's something happening. It's schoolwork, it's homework, it's this work, it's that work, it's gym, it's sport, it's TV, and when you're watching TV, you're not evaluating your life.
No.
So it's to actually stop, pause, and think.
Yeah.
So that we can process these things. And if you're in a season of nearing burnout, I would say you need you have to, as a moment of urgency, is to actually go, I need to stop and think this through. Let me play the movie. What does this look like in the future? What do I need to stop doing? We've always got a to-do list, but we need a not to-do list. What can I stop doing?
A to-don't list.
Yeah, because I think there's two types of, there might be more, but from my perspective, I see two types of burnout. People who burn out because they're doing all of the wrong things.
Yeah.
Other one is people who are so consumed by doing good things. You know, it's the person who feels the need to feed that person's dog, who feels the need to go and fix that person's thing and go give to this and to go give to that.
Yeah.
And they're giving so much to other people, which are good things.
Yeah.
You could even argue
They're
like the
things.
biblical things to do, you know. But then you neglect your family, and your family doesn't get the same care that the other people get. It's because it's not because you want to be selfless. It's because you get a bit of a dopamine hit every time someone says, "Oh, thank you, you've saved my life." You go, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
okay,"
Yeah.
you know.
No, it feels good.
And your family's there going, "Why do they always get the good oil?
Jeez.
We get the fish fried oil. They get the fresh oil.
Challenging me now.
Why is that?"
Well, you're church in front of people. It's you've got to. It's almost your job to be on your A game, and then you get home and you're just like, it's like taking your belt off and just
Totally. Yeah.
And then your family are like, what the stuff, right?
And your excuse is, "Oh yeah, but they needed me. They needed this." I'm like, come on.
Good.
Come on. So, I mean, those are good things, but even Jesus stopped doing good things so that he could get margin and a rest and replenishment and a break.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't want people to feel like we're saying they have to only be involved in the activity of building the church, for instance, because that's a lie. I think you need to be busy building the church, but not busy all the time building the church.
Yeah.
Because you need, like, your week should have family in it, it should have work in it, it should have the kingdom of God in it.
Right.
But not all three at all times.
Yeah.
Because where's your evaluation?
Fulcrum.
Yeah.
That Wayne Kadir speaks about.
Brilliant. Yeah. Definitely got to watch that.
Yeah.
The fulcrum. Yeah. Just change what you're doing in that season.
So good.
And then there, of course, is the other people who are going into the other extreme, and their whole vibe is, hey, I just got to work more. I just got to get busier and busier and busier, because there's this underlying thing of, I don't want to be an underachiever.
Yeah, well,
or someone said that you were terrible at something
when you were
point.
like 7 years old. And
Yeah.
You carry that now.
But we do, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
I still remember being called an avo. I was on this cricket tour to Pretoria, and the guys said, like, Swain, you got a personality of an avo. You know, it's haunted me for probably 15 years.
Yeah.
That one thing.
Yeah.
And if I'm not careful, I respond out of that.
Yeah.
And so, because someone said something when you're young, you're now trying to prove them wrong. But
to people that
you're burning out in your 40s or your 50s, and your family's like, what the heck?
Yeah. No, same. I mean, when I was young, it struggled with weight, and when I was in grade 4, like 10 years old, you get comments about weight, and then you get older, but you still don't want to take your shirt off at the beach or whatever. So that's like a practical example. It's quite funny, actually. But that's just an example of, just because something happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago doesn't mean you're over it.
Yeah.
You've got to be intentional about, well, how am I going to handle these issues? Or am I going to bleed on the people that didn't even cut you?
Wow.
From that point of view. So it's like,
good.
we got to think about it. And it's got to be a conversation. It's got to be aware. So even for next steps for people, maybe as we begin to close, is that wherever you find yourself right now, as you're listening or watching, you know your energy levels.
Yeah.
You know where your heart's at. You know what you like when you're at your best, when you're rested, when you're replenished. And then you also know what you like when you're tired, how you speak to people, how you react to situations. It's if you're on the other end now, when you're like, well, actually, if I'm honest, I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling burnt out. I'm feeling like I'm being I'm just reacting, I'm not responding. It's like, it just becomes like, it's more anger driven and whatever the deal is. Then I think a great next step for you to just be to evaluate what are some of the things that are draining you? What are some of the things that are maybe causing you to burn out? And it's not just, like we're saying, it's not just the fact that your outflow tap is on. Your outflow tap always needs to be on. Just because it's flowing doesn't mean that you need to turn it off. It's like, well, what's coming out of there? What am I pouring energy into? What do I need to maybe slow down with? But where also do I need to start pouring in?
Ramping up on the... I think that's so important. Honestly, I think you bring such good perspective there. I think, that's it. Write it down so that you can actually see it. You know, pouring into yourself, I can only say is one of the most vital things. And even for your, like, if you're married, you can actually pour into your spouse by just encouragement. Just saying, hey, you're beautiful. You're handsome. You're just the best, you know.
Build somebody.
Yeah, you build them up, and that just fuels. That's why you get encouragement. Encouragement fills everybody's tap. There's nobody I've ever met in my life that goes, please stop encouraging me. It's
loving me.
It's so distressing, you know.
Totally.
And that is so helpful. And I think just checking the inflow, writing it down, I think that if there's a next step, I would definitely say that is the next step. I think you brought that up so brilliantly.
Make a list. You can have a list of your outflows. You can have a list of the things and put everything there. Don't just put like what you perceive as the bad things, work and this and bills and put everything that's your outflow, because not all of it is bad.
Yeah.
A lot of it is good. A lot of it is godly.
It's appropriate,
and it's supposed to be there. And then have a look at your inflow. And I think we could almost say with dead surety that you're going to be able to know your outflows way better than your inflows. The one list is going to outweigh the other. Yeah. It doesn't mean that there aren't. I just think we haven't developed an ability to think about it and to then to apply it. Yeah. And then to say, well, I've got 3 inflows here, but I've got 12 outflows. Yeah. I need to start thinking about, with intentionality, what are things that replenish me? Yeah. Reading or whatever the deal is, and then to start applying those things into your life. And feel okay with it. Yeah. Because it's guilt. Yeah, there you go. I think you get the guilt of, I get that. I get guilty if I'm not doing something and this feels so selfish. Well, this me time or this, you know, this. Yeah. I could be doing something better. There's something, I need to be more productive. And Lara's also said, no, you actually just it's okay for you to do this. Yeah. Like, this is actually a good thing. Yeah. And even, I think in the next podcast, we can talk about how important sleep is. Yeah, the play, fun, you know, even spending the appropriate amount of money, you know, on toys. Yeah. You know, I'm not talking about overspending and stuff like that, because that could lead now to do. But appropriately, going on leave and not feeling guilty or bad about it, but to enjoy it. But like you said, if you've made that list and you're aware, most of the time we don't know what our ins and outs are and how much it is. We always underestimate. We do, yeah. And so just by doing that, I think you've given people such a healthy handle to go, okay, cool. I don't have to feel guilty about this because this is actually fueling all of that. Yeah. And I think that's going to be brilliant. Yeah, listen, I've had so much fun. I think this has been amazing, and I'm very excited for next week. So if you have tuned in, into episode 4 via maybe video, or if you're listening via podcast, you don't want to miss this. You've got half of it now. You've got 50%. Yes. You can't miss episode 5 because we really are going to take things extremely practically. Yeah. We're not. It's not all things that just sound profound. We want to talk about how many hours should I sleep? Yeah. What should I do with that time? How does that look? Books to read, even some practical resources for people. Yeah, I think it'll be great. Yeah. I want to leave people with an image, if you don't mind. I just think, you know, there's this with marathon athletes. There's this point along their journey on the run where they talk about they hit this invisible wall, where all of a sudden all of the energy saps out of them. They struggle to put one foot in front of the other, and a lot of people quit in that time. Yeah.
And that's the danger of burnout. Because of all of this output, you eventually hit a wall. And once you hit that wall in burnout, you want to quit. You want to quit on life. You want to quit on relationship. You want to quit on job. Your motivation is sucked out.
Yeah.
All of that. And you can become so disillusioned in that season. And what do the guys do? They often recommend like eating something sweet like a muffin or a chocolate. Just boosts the energy a little bit. You just got to push through.
Yeah.
So we don't want to get to that point in our life.
No.
Because if you hit that point,
It's very tough.
it is years of getting out of that. And so we want to help people, help you guys, and help ourselves to, at the end of the day, to keep ourselves accountable, to say, cool, we don't want to get to burnout. We want to be healthy. We want to be appropriately challenged. We want to be stretched, but we want to do it in a way that we don't break.
Yeah.
And our families will be better for it. Our spirituality will be better for it. Our productivity, our businesses, everything we do will be better for it if we could stay on the healthy side of that burnout space. And so I think next week is going to be good. Preventative,
Let's prevent it. Let's stop trying to look for cures. Let's prevent it. Let's put good things in place today. Because maybe you're watching and you're saying, I feel great. Well, that's awesome. Well, do you know about these things? Because if you
stay great.
Yeah, if you don't, you might not always be great and feel great. And maybe you can put something in place that can stop you from getting to the lowest low.
So good,
before you have to find your way out. But this has been amazing.
We've loved it. Yeah, thanks.
We thank you so much. Everybody that's joined us on YouTube or on any of the podcast streaming platforms, it's been next level. Please feel free to rate this podcast, leave comments on YouTube, maybe even subscribe if you're on YouTube, or check out our Instagram, which is the 167 podcast. Follow us, share us. We want to do two things through this. We want to get better, but we also want to spread the word, and we want to get the word out, because all we really want to do is help people.
Yeah, that's the goal. And do that if you want to. We would appreciate it. It helps us.
It does.
And we want to, I think it's important that we can form a community here.
Yeah.
And really respond and connect and, see where we can help one another.
Yeah,
but it's been a blast.
Yeah, it's been awesome. We can do that if we know who you are.
Exactly.
So
be known.
Yeah, let us know who you are. Like it, comment. But hey, it's been such an amazing, amazing episode. We trust that you've enjoyed it just as much as we have. God bless you guys. Until next time, we pray that you stay safe and stay refreshed.
Good.
God bless.
Cheers.